We're going to go over why we're different, the programs we have put together. We're going to go over some of the exciting new changes in the industry with new technologies that really make organics so much easier to do. So, what do we provide at Green Earth Ag and Turf and Grow It Naturally? We have experience. We've been doing this for over 16 years now. This is going to be our 17th year in June, July. We're always researching new technologies. Vendors are coming to us. Our reputation, we're known throughout the industry as the authority in organics, and that's and invited speakers and writers. Our programs have been proven for well over a decade, almost 15 years now, and they were developed with some of you that are in the audience, your feedback, and we've made it very easy, four-step programs. We coach you through the whole thing. That's free. We don't charge consulting fees. We're there for you during the year. Anybody knows we answer emails very quickly. We pick up the phone. We hold your hand through the whole process with complete technical and logistics. A lot of our customers have come to call us their R&D department because of that. They call us up. They say, "I have this problem. What do I need?" And they go ahead and you know and trust us with it. It's not just our clients, it's the industry itself. Turf Magazine is the preeminent publication in the green industries for turf, for anybody turf in the turf field, turf professionals. When they need an article on soil biology, they called us. We're going to talk about that in a minute, the programs that we wrote about at Turf Magazine. When they wanted an update on organic pesticides, they called us to write an article. And when they wanted to know what the neonic bands that we're going to talk about for grubs, they called us to write an article. And so this is our programs and our products are not only validated by us as scientists, but also by the leading publications in the field. So what I want to do is last year I did a presentation on really how to sell organics. It was entirely more of a business focus. The year before we kind of talked about our programs. I'm going to do a little bit of both here and combine them. I'm going to review a little bit of, just what organics is because there's always confusion. Look at the current market. How you sell these, and then the nuts and bolts of our programs and the best solutions for you guys. So really, I can say honestly, in the last 5 years with new products, the way the programs are working, and the feedback that organics really is no longer a compromise like it used to be. You don't have to compromise. In fact, you can get better programs, and I'm going to show you how. So what is organic? So, what does organic mean? Organic practices is really a system that works with nature, and you're using natural substances and biological methods, living soils, things like compost, crop rotation, natural pest solutions to build soil health, conserve everything in nature, avoid synthetic pesticides, fertilizers, GMOs. This creates a more sustainable practice, and then the USDA certifies standards for soil ecological practices, especially in farming. Organic, the chemical name means any compound that contains a carbon in it. So it's actually a shame in the industry that the word organic was used because bad players have taken advantage of this. For example, this is the chemical formulation of glyphosate, which has three carbons in it. Chemically, anywhere where you have a carbon bond, you don't need to show it. So one, two, three carbons here. Glyphosate, by the chemical definition, is organic. These are the neonics, which are now being banned throughout the country. We're going to talk about that. Again, these all have carbon rings, whether it's pyrimidine rings here or what are called benzene rings. These are all carbons in the molecule. So sometimes people mesh this. I see this actually funny in the dry cleaning industry. They say, organic because they're using chemicals with carbon in it, and it's deceptive at best. So watch for labels that have organic on them because they contain carbon. Also watch for labels or applicators that says contains organic ingredients or all natural. I see this a lot in the larger tick industry company, tick and mosquito, where they spike a little cedar oil into their bifenthrin, which is a pretty toxic chemical, and say they contains organic ingredients. So just be careful about that. What is the history of synthetics? So I had to do a presentation for the local garden club a few years back, and I went backwards. And this is a prime example of not seeing the trees through the woods. Went back to just to do the history of organics. So what I found was it was really eye-opening. During World War II, the U.S. government built 10 new plants to supply nitrogen for bombs. All those plants after the war were converted to produce ammonia for fertilizer. They were throwing the waste outside and saw the lawns were greening up at these factories. Nerve gas agents used in the war that were found to kill insects, organophosphates, also came out of World War II, as did herbicide use. So US and UK had researched biological weapons, which led to the discovery of 2,4-D, which is one of the two components in Agent Orange. 2,4-D is in our selective herbicides. This opened my eyes because what occurred to me, it was a eureka moment, is everything we use to treat our food now was meant to kill somebody or something. Think about that. So this is what goes on in traditional practices. The things we're eating are grown with compounds that were originally used to kill people. So in the 1940s, Rodale began to study the link between healthy soil, healthy food, healthy people. The Rodale Institute was started, which is now the leading organic institution. In 1985, Congress added funds to the ag for organic to the ag bill. In 1990, they passed the Organic Foods Production Act. And finally, in 2002, the final rules were implemented, and we got a system to certify food organically. So when you go to the grocery store and you see this symbol, USDA organic, the government or some other agency is validating that there truly are organic practices and the use of synthetic chemicals and GMOs aren't being used. So how do you get organic certifications? Products can be composed of organic inputs but aren't certified. That's natural products. You can't call a product organic unless it's certified as such. You can get a lot of trouble for that. Or as applicators, you can't go and say you have an organic practice and not use organic products. OMRI, there's two certifying agents, two main certifying agents, OMRI and Washington State. They approve the products that are used as inputs in ag and turf practices. The certifying agencies allow for integrity. They do independent reviews and check products against or approve products against the organic standards. And then products need to follow what's called the NOP or National Organic Program from the USDA to get certified. So not every product that's approved in agriculture may have the OMRI label as long as it's following this, and it can be certified by agents. So organic landscapers, though, are not federally regulated. There's no national certifying agency. Turf applicators and landscapers can be accredited through NOFA OLC, and we're actually providing credits for that. So, and one thing I do want to always like to point out is, an organic myth that organic is safe. Organic doesn't always mean safe. You guys can come in on the comments, but how many people sprinkle a little arsenic on their salad or put mercury in their coffee every morning? None of us. Those are both technically organic because they're natural elements. Um, Organic agriculture can pollute groundwater. I always say, do you think the fish that's dying in a pond or lake from eutrophication gives a damn whether it was organic fertilizer that killed them or synthetic? So you still, even with organics, you want to use them as little as possible and be judicious about what you do and don't use. Things that are approved for organics, such as like copper fungicides, can also damage beneficial microbes in the soil. So again, be careful. And even things like composting can be dangerous. So organic doesn't always mean safe. You still want to treat it and use it as little as possible. When you do, you want to go with the safest solutions. So why is for you as landscapers especially or as farmers, doing organic growing, why organics? Um, the There's three reasons why you should do this. The first is safety concerns and liability. The big thing was a few years back is when the people the veil of Roundup finally got penetrated. For years, when Roundup was owned by Monsanto, it's now owned by Bayer. Monsanto would sue any researcher that tried to do research on it. They suppressed data, they sued companies, and squashed any researchers. But that veil got penetrated, and Roundup got found guilty of causing cancer and or glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup, and people sued them and won, and that really got a lot of publicity. And even though Roundup is not the most dangerous thing that applicators use, it really opened the people's eyes. So that really we got more calls after that than any time in the history of the company. We just don't want to use Roundup. The market demand. So there's growing concerns, and part of it is because of the publicity from the Roundup or other lawsuits, but there's growing concern from your clients about the environment. There's more negative news on pollinators with the neonics and toxic pesticides. And the next generation, the millennials, the Gen Zs, they're much more environmentally conscious than some of the previous generations because they're the people that are stuck with this planet, and they have concerns. They read about global warming or global warming, as we like to say it. Um, this was a study that came out 7, 8 years ago, and it was anticipating ahead of time the organic market. And it vastly underrated things. But just to show you, they anticipated growth in the organic industry. This is organic gardening and lawn care to be 6% per year annually, or about $79 billion, excuse me, in growth between 2021 and 2025. That number is much higher now. A lot of it was due to the innovations in landscape and garden practices that we're going to talk about, new products, new ways of doing things, but consumer demand is the biggest driving force for you guys. We call it trickle up economics. So a lot of our clients are people we talked to 5 years ago, 10 years ago, who wanted nothing to do with us, are now coming back because their clients are asking for organic lawn care programs and they don't have anything to offer, and they're losing a huge part of the market now. So it's the consumers asking the landscapers or the golf course that they play on to go to greener practices. We say it's the only green that some of these people care about is the green in their wallets, and that's fine. But the market is demanding organics. So the number three reason, a big thing affecting people, especially here in the Northeast around waterways, is the bans that are being put in use. So there's federal bans um, on pesticides, things being taken off the shelf. These are national bans, but states also, like New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, we have bans on using pesticide on school grounds, K through 8 here, and public parks. You cannot use pesticides there. So or harmful pesticides, a lot of states are banning or allowing organics to go through. And making exemptions for that. And even down to the municipality um, level. Here in Connecticut, for example, Stamford has passed their own bans. Stamford, Connecticut, Suffolk County in New York on Long Island. So bans all over. Tools are being taken out of your belt, and we are offering solutions and products that can get around these pesticide bans and allow you to have really good programs. So what do we do is how do you successfully sell an organic and hybrid program? And again, we have last year's recorded. I went into a lot of details about this. I just want to do a quick summary for you guys. Really, the biggest thing in organics that we preach and we found is defining organics to your client, or how your client defines organics, and setting expectations. And a lot of landscapers here are going to laugh, I know, because they've all been through this, and this is what they get when they first approach a customer, or a customer approaches them about organics is, I want organics, I heard about the safety, or they're concerned about their pets on the lawn. Vin and I laugh. In 15, 16 years of doing the company, I can honestly say I've not gotten one phone call from somebody who said they're worried about their children. They will tell us they're worried about their pets. Their dogs got cancer. The vets told them the cancer is due to lawn chemicals, so they want organic because of the dogs, not the children. It's funny. Of course, they're concerned about the children, but every call is about the dogs. Um, and then they get estimates from larger companies. Some of these are not completely upfront. These companies are coming in with these low prices. They want those same costs and they want their lawns to look like the tees and greens from a golf course. These things do not mesh and they're not realistic expectations. So what you need to do is determine the client's organic definition and really give them the caveats and define, what the limitations are, what they're going to see. How does your client define organic? Most people don't really understand what it means and how to achieve it. Do they really want 100% organic, or do they want a balance, between how the lawn looks and the safety of their pets and children? Um, right now, there's two holy grails of organics. I'm going to talk about them both. One is a pre-emergent weed control, and weed control does in organics does remain behind in organics versus synthetics. We're honest with everybody. We will work with you. We will tell you what to expect. For example, some of the weed killers are approaching 100% of what Roundup does. Others, as far as the pre-emergents, they're not there. And pre-emergent weed killing is one of the holy grails. So, what is the client's weed tolerance, especially as it comes to crabgrass? And if they don't want crabgrass to come out during the summer, will they consider a hybrid program, which is what we found in years of experience. We don't sell synthetics, but we do preach for your best shot for success is a hybrid program the first season in which you use synthetic pre-emergence. So clearly define what your customer wants and what to expect, and it'll save you headaches down the road. So what's the difference between a hybrid and a full organic program? We always say, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Um, if you can get somebody off 90% of their synthetic chemicals and fertilizers, and you actually get a better program, then you've done a great job. And if they're happy with that and you're okay with putting down a few synthetics here and there just to make things look better, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. So hybrid programs integrate synthetic pre-emergent weed killers the first year, especially things like prodiamine, which is, Barricade is one of the labels. This helps break the crabgrass cycle. The crabgrass that comes out in the summer, your organic lawns are going to look as good or better as the synthetics, and then crabgrass breaks out. And that's the top reason clients are going to leave an organic program. It's not your fault. That crabgrass was put in there last year, the year before that. It's those seeds are in the soil, but you get blamed for it. So after the first season, you can get away without really using synthetics or spot spray. Once you break that cycle and all the seeds and the seeds stop germinating, some people don't use synthetics after the first season. Some do keep that as a spring weed and feed with pre-emergent. And one of the only synthetic compounds we use are the mesotriones, which are terosity or tenacity. This is a post-emergent crabgrass. Mesotrione is based off a molecule that came from naturally from a bottle brush, so it's considered one of the safest among all the synthetics, probably safer than some organics, in fact. So this is a great solution if weeds do come out, and a lot of organic applicators do use this as a fallback. So the hybrid programs are the sweet spots for people. The hybrid program will is the best marriage between getting the best aesthetics because you get the best of both worlds. You get better plants, healthier plants and turf from the organic program. You reduce 90% of the chemicals, so people feel safe, and the cost is lower than a full organic. This has really been the sweet spot. So we always preach that. If you do want 100% organic, just tell the customers up front. They may see weeds. There are some things you can do to control them, but you need to see what's acceptable, what their weed tolerance is. But it is feasible. We do have an organic pre-emergent I'll talk about. It's just not anywhere near what the synthetics do. And then tiered and upsell programs where this is where you add on grub control, tick control, disease and pest control, things like chinch bugs. This avoids sticker shock. And our programs have a base and then add-ons for your clients. And you can sell this both ways. Um, so now we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of our products and programs. We're going to look at some of the new technologies and how and why our programs work and why we've done this over 15 years and why we've settled on the way we do things to make it both easier for you. So organics does not mean just simply substituting a organic product for a synthetic one. That's not how it works. It's a little bit more of, I hate to use the word, but like a holistic approach. It means building healthy soil to feed the plant, tree, and turf and reducing as many inputs as possible, not just synthetic ones, and you'll get better overall health and results. We call it the organic IPM approach. So we're reducing even organic inputs, not just pesticides. The elimination and to get you to eventually eliminate all pesticides and use only organic ones when needed. Soil testing is a big part of this to build healthy soil. And once you have healthy soil, everything else falls into place. And that's the biggest thing. So this is not a political stance. We're not taking sides. But years ago, Bill Clinton said it's the economy, stupid. And that has held up. Elections go and fall by the economy. For us, it's the soil test, stupid. Um, Soil tests is the best thing you can do. I always tell people if you go to the doctor, you say you're not feeling well, I don't have energy, I'm feeling lethargic, they're not going to send you right to chemotherapy. They're not going to give you a diabetes drug, right? They're going to take your blood. It could be you just have a vitamin D deficiency and a simple vitamin supplement will help. That's what soil tests do. Soil tests measure nutrients, your macronutrients, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, as well as your micronutrients, measures pH, organic matter, things like what are called cation exchange capacity. This is what a typical soil test work looks like. If you do soil testing and you don't know how to interpret this, whether you're a homeowner or professional, you email us these tests and we'll help you let you know what you need. And what a soil test does is help you spend your money where you need it. And actually saves you money. So if you spend 30 bucks at one of these companies here in Connecticut, Yukon does it, or the Ag Station for free. Yukon does a little bit more thorough testing. They may charge you 20, 30 bucks, or Waypoint Analyticals or Logan Labs are great companies. If you want to get more detailed, it's worth every penny. It's not always feasible. Larger companies can't do soil tests on hundreds and hundreds of clients, but if you have problems, soil testing is the number one thing you can do. And before we get into the inputs, we do need to address other cultural practices. The best thing you can do is high mowing. It's the best weed preventive. It costs you nothing. You don't have to do any applications. This is a study at the University of Maryland. They mowed the lawn 1 inch versus 2 inch versus 3 inch, and then they marked where the crabgrass came in. And you could see the huge difference. Just mowing 3 inches, getting your clients to mow 3 inches, this is the best weed preventer in the world. You don't need products. Irrigation is another thing. We call it killing your lawn with love. Many people turn on the irrigation systems every day for a short period. It's the worst thing you can do. This causes what we call lazy roots. All the waters, there's always water at the top of the soil. The roots don't need to be driven down. Water less often and deeply, 2 to 3 times a week, put more water down. And what that does, the water, as it dries from the top, it forces the roots to grow. And deeper roots not only have better access to water, your lawns are going to be happier come the summer. You're actually going to save water because the roots are getting water from down below. You're also going to save money with your irrigation system. So I know I'm going quickly. I got a lot to cover. Be here at lunch for any questions. But now we're going to get into our programs and how they work. So when I came into the industry 16 years ago, I came from human medicine. As Sam said in my intro, I was really disillusioned at how little science there was in the organic world. It was like my Italian grandmother made her sauce. It was a dash of this, a pinch of that. What really mattered to the flavor, you don't know. Maybe it was the TLC, but there wasn't a basis for a lot of the products that were being recommended. So what we tried to do is research these as scientists. We test everything ourselves. We ask people, any product on our shelf, do you have university studies? What is verified that's in that bottle? So again, your R&D department, we look at all this ahead of time for you. So what our programs is we have our standard maintenance program that combines, we're going to talk about here in a second, that combines soil inoculants with fertilizers and amendments. And then we have the weed control, grub and beetle controls are add-ons. Tick and mosquitoes is the highest money maker for applicators. And then, for farmers or applicators, disease and pest control, other things that pop up, whether it's brown spot, dollar spot, red thread, chinch bugs, all bill bugs, all these add up. So there's two ways to go about this. Some applicators might take the buffet table approach. Hey, we just want a maintenance program that's organic, or hey, my clients don't want Roundup. That's the number one thing we hear. I just want a weed control that's not Roundup, or maybe they need a grub control that's organic because neonics are banned in their region. So, as we said before, this is not the best approach, but it may be what your customers want. It's one way to look at things, but simply substituting organic, as I said before, does not give optimal results and lean towards long-term success. So what we've done is we've come up with an easy to apply four-step turnkey program. And we work with you, and this is an Excel sheet we send everybody, or we do it yourself. All you do is put in the square feet that you're going to treat. And this could be all your lawns combined, or this could help you estimate your cost on a single lawn. Let's say it's a 2,000 square foot lawn. This calculator instantly tells you how much to apply, when, whether it's the spring app, the the early summer app, what you do during the summer, and then your fall apps. How much of each product you need total, and your cost per application and per the season. This will instantly allow you to put estimates for clients, and we help you with all this. We're looking to ways to make this even simpler online. And we can customize this calculator for you, whether you're hybrid, we can customize it for your synthetic pre-emergence, whether you're 100% organic, or we can add on the weed killers. We can add on the grub control, like we do here in this example. So previous organic programs relied too much on inconsistent, non-scalable things like compost teas, which can be good, but you can't go home during the spring when you're busy as ever and you're working 12-hour days and go home and brew a tea, or things that didn't work. Where programs were too complicated, there were 20 different inputs and you had to go out 8 times. Your labor costs matter. And the programs just got too expensive and priced themselves out of the market. So we simplified this. 4 easy steps, very turnkey. And it's all backed by university studies, the science literature, and it's all stable and scalable. So we're going to look at now our standard maintenance program. We integrate organic probiotics or soil inoculants with prebiotics, and this is the basis of our program. What makes it different is really the probiotics, and I'm going to tell you why. So let's think about what is soil and how do we build it? And I always start with this slide, and this is not to offend anybody. We all know what soil is. When I started in this industry, I called it dirt before I realized what a living organism is. It really is amazing. And how do we treat it? So it's just going to get us to think differently. So soil is made up of minerals and nutrients. It's made up of water, it's made up of gases, and it's made up of organic matter and microbes, a living part. So what do traditional programs do? Well, we fertilize, we add, NPK fertilizers and amendments. We water, whether it's Mother Nature and rain, or we irrigate. The gases come in either through the water, or a lot of landscapers do aeration. What do traditional programs do to address the most important part of the soil, which is the organic matter and the microbes? Most programs never address this. We do, And one thing I want to say about our company is we are not married to any single product. On purpose, I don't manufacture anything. I don't private label anything because once you do, as a company, you're biased and you're beholden to that product and you're going to promote something that may not be better. We have turned over our fertilizers probably or excuse me, our weed killers 4 or 5 times since I've had this company. If something better comes along, I'm going to sell that to you. We're going to put it in our catalog, and we're not going to sell you something that's inferior. We only, in some categories, only have one product because it's the best. In 15 years of turning over products, constantly innovating, nothing has come close to Quantum Growth, the soil inoculant. So and a lot of practices, in fact, in synthetics, practices are actually detrimental to soil biology. So our products are different. When I started 15 years ago, I used to get laughed out of meetings when I talked about adding bacteria to plants and trees and turf. These are the same people like Turf Magazine who later asked us to write articles for them. But we had a lot of issue trying to get to people. How do we explain to them the importance of it? And I was watching TV one day, and Jamie Lee Curtis is sitting there eating yogurt, and I said, "That's it. What our programs do is provide yogurt. Everybody understands the benefits of probiotics. Now, even since 15 years ago, doctors now, if they give you an antibiotic, they will give you a probiotic because the antibiotics wipe out all the beneficial microbes in our gut and they reinoculate them with beneficial microbes before pathogens come back and we get sick or we have problems digesting food. We all understand that. Well, if we understand how human digestion works, we have mechanical digestion. We chew our food, we swallow it. We have miles of intestines. We have an acidic stomach. Our stomach is a pH of 2. So as soon as the food hits our stomach, it's chemically digested. And then we have beneficial microbes, the probiotics in our gut. So plants have a stomach too. It's the soil, right? But unlike us, plants don't have mechanical digestion. They don't have acidic digestion and a pH of 2 in their stomach. All they have is the microbes. So if you understand how important probiotics are for our stomach, they're even more important for the soil because they can't chew their food and they can't chemically digest their food. The microbes are everything. So 1 gram of soil, just tell you how important it is, contain 1 million fungi and 1 billion bacteria. That's about a tablespoon of soil. In an acre, there's the equivalent weight of bacteria of 2 cows in an acre of soil. In that 1 gram, that tablespoon, there's probably 10 to 50,000 species of bacteria. That number is probably higher, underrated. Estimates that we've really only probably found, if we identified even 1% of the bacteria in the soil, I think it's an overestimation. So we're still learning about this. We still don't know anything, but it's an exciting time with pyrosequencing and other things to learn about it. So, and this is, I call this the Purell moment. People don't realize this, but 90 to 95% of the cells on or in our human body are bacterial. So bacteria are good. We've over sterilized, and this has caused a lot of health issues. But bacteria are everywhere. The vast majority are good, and we couldn't live without them. So what is quantum growth? Quantum growth is a controlled inoculant. It's not an unstable or inconsistent compost tea. This product, this company has all types of university studies. They're on our website and third-party verification for 16 years. I get calls once a month from companies trying to sell us soil inoculants. I say, show me university studies and show me third-party verification that what you tell me biology's in the bottle is actually there. And I never hear back from most of them, and I haven't been able to beat this product yet. It's known microbes, shelf stable for 2 to 3 years unopened. Each batch is tested. It's free of pathogens. They've been doing this for over 40 years. It's OMRI listed and highly concentrated at a gallon per acre. It's used by the top professionals, pro sports turfs. Quantum growth is our biggest crossover product. Again, the people that don't care about green or only the green in their wallet, we sell quantum growth to Disney properties, to the Tampa Bay Bucks, Miami Dolphins. I was shipping quantum growth out to the Milwaukee Brewers a few years ago during the ALS. They use this to keep their grass green in Milwaukee during the baseball playoffs in October. And no other product meets the stringent activities. And just those of you that use compost teas, you may not like me, but what I say quantum growth is if any of you ever made yogurt, you take milk, you sterilize it, you put known cultures into it, you grow it under very stringent conditions, and every time you go and buy yogurt, Dannon yogurt, Activia, it's the same, it's the same yogurt, it tastes the same, it has the same cultures, and it's tested for pathogens. Compost tea is if you took that same milk and put it on the counter. You probably don't get yogurt, you get moldy milk. It may not be the microbes that you want. So quantum growth is way different. So why are soil inoculants so important? That's the next part of what we're going to go over. It's to build soil health. And I'm going to tell you why this product does that better than any other. Fertilizer reduction, lower weed pressure, higher germination rates. When you're putting seed in the ground, people, use quantum growth at seeding, transplant, better water retention. We're going to talk about disease and pest control, which is something that's up and coming and exciting, and just general aesthetics. So let's start with why quantum's different and building soil health. I'm going to skip through this a little quickly. It's a little technical, and I love to geek out, but plants, this is the wavelengths of what plants absorb. Plants are green because they reflect green light. They don't use it. So they absorb the sun's energy here. Everything on Earth we're completely dependent on the sun and something converting the sun's energy to carbon sources like sugar that we can use. So right from the bat, a plant can only use 45% of the sunlight for photosynthesis. They're going to lose 90% of that just goes into running their machinery to build sugars and energy from the sunlight. So right off the bat, only 3 to 6% of the sunlight's energy is used. Plants will put out up to 40% of the energy, of that 3 to 6% of the energy into the soil through what are called root exudates to feed the microbes. That's how important microbes are to plants. We call this the tax on the plant. So if only, when you do the math, that's only 1 to 3% of photosynthesis energy is ever used by the plant. So how can we reduce this tax? Well, there are things called purple photosynthetic bacteria. Now, if you look at what they absorb, they are purple because they only reflect a little bit of this part. So, but they also have different parts of their membranes. Photosynthetic microbes are much more efficient. Purple photosynthetic bacteria, they have a 93.5% energy conversion versus the 1 to 3 of plants. And guess what quantum growth is? It is these purple photosynthetic bacteria. So most of you that are organic have seen the soil food web before. First, and they talks about trophic levels. I'm not going to go into all the details, but the first trophic level is something that photosynthesizes from the sun and produces energy. All life is based on this. And then off of the first trophic levels come the second trophic levels. These are things like fungi and other bacteria, not the purple photosynthetic that are in quantum growth. So every other biological product, and I've checked them all, nobody has first trophic level, bottom of the food chain bacteria. So when you buy bacillus, when you buy mycorrhizal, these are second trophic levels. You're starting to build the soil food web up the wrong way. Quantum growth and the purple photosynthetics feed from the bottom up. And it's the only way to really create sustainable soil. And just to give you an example, because we're better off with things we can see, let's play Mother Nature for a second. If we have sand, a desert, and we need to rebuild this, let's say we started from the fourth and fifth trophic level. We bring in wolves, we bring in coyotes. What happens? That system falls apart because they have nothing to eat. So we get a little smarter. Let's bring in second and third trophic levels. Let's bring in cute deer and cute bunny, right? And what happens is the wolves and the coyotes come back naturally because now they have a food source. This is nature, not me, and they eat those cute bunnies and deers. But the system still collapses because the bunny and the deer don't have a food source. And once they're gone, they're gone. It's not sustainable. That's what you do with any other biological. Now, let's get really smart. Let's say we started building this. All we add are green things. We plant plants. We put in grass. This is how Mother Nature works. We start from the first trophic level. What happens there? That's what you do with quantum growth that no other product can do. What happens is the deer and the bunnies come back naturally because now they have a food source, and the coyotes. And what you do is you have a sustainable system. So you can see that. That's how it works above ground. Same thing happens below ground. And that's why this product is so different. Not only by fixing carbon, because they're photosynthetic, they're putting carbon into the soil and building organic matter, but also those purple synthetic are unique. They're also nitrogen fixing. So we'll talk about that and how the product helps you with fertilizer reduction. This is the nitrogen cycle, if those of you that aren't familiar with it. All nitrogen in the soil comes from fertilizers, plants or animal materials decaying, animals pooping, all the decomposers. Nitrogen comes in a high form of ammonia. Now, if you look at the nitrogen cycle, or ureas, all a higher form of nitrogen. If you look at plant assimilation, what plants use, they can only use nitrates. So this ammonia or any higher nitrogen source needs to be converted through what's called nitrification, has to be converted to nitrites and then nitrates. And this is what plants use. Well, guess what runs this cycle is nitrifying bacteria. Quantum growth put these bacteria into the bottle. So these microbes will cycle your fertilizer when you put it in the ground from the higher forms into plant usable forms before nitrogen gases off very quickly or runs off with the rain. Not only that, but those purple photosynthetic are nitrogen fixing. So our air is 78% nitrogen. Think about that. 78% nitrogen is floating around in the air, but we're throwing all this nitrogen fertilizer down. These microbes in quantum growth actually fix that nitrogen. They'll pull it out of the air and put it into the ground as a natural fertilizer and then the nitrifying. And this is all in the bottle here. So any nitrogen you do put down comes back much more efficient. And our applicators will reduce 25, 50% of their nitrogen. Same thing with phosphate. I've seen so many examples here in New England. Our soils are always off the charts high in phosphorus. But if you take a tissue sample, the plant, the turf, is starving for phosphorus. Well, guess what? It is. It's the bacteria again. And these are just examples of bacteria, the Pseudomonas and Bacillus that are in the quantum growth. They solubilize the phosphorus and make it more plant available. Same thing with potassium. Um, this is a trial that was done at Rutgers University, Dr. Tom Morton. What they did was they reduced fertilizer almost 25%, 23% less nitrogen use, and they inoculated or didn't inoculate with quantum growth. These are the yields. There was actually a 24% increase in yields, and this is in peppers. They did it in tomatoes too, same results. A 24% increase in yield by weight of these peppers with the fertilizer reduction in quantum versus more fertilizer, which is here. This is the standard fertilizer rate. What that meant was a 20% increase in yield and profit. And when they did the math and they published this, that gave you a 30-fold ROI, 30% return on investment. That means for every dollar you spend on quantum growth, you get $30 back in yields. Now, most of you guys aren't growing peppers, but it's the same thing in your turf. It's the aesthetics, it's the lower inputs. You get the best return on investment with this product of anything. Weed pressure, again, we showed you before how high mowing gets rid of weeds. The industry word was always that weeds, what happens is with organics, you get healthier, thicker grass and it blocks out the weeds. Does that make any sense? I don't see grass blocking out weeds here, right? That never made sense to me. A couple of years ago, publications started coming out. We know crabgrass and other weeds are allelopathic. That is, they put chemicals into the ground to kill anything surrounding. That's why if you get crabgrass, puts chemicals in the ground, it kills the healthy turf. And when the crabgrass goes away in the fall, you got dead spots. Well, they knew the chemicals were in the ground. What they started finding was the chemicals that the crabgrass and other weeds put in the ground actually kill the microbes in the soil. In other words, they make crappier soil that they're more adapted to grow in and turf can't. And then what this group did and other groups is they started putting better microbes and inoculating the soils. And what they found is it overcame the allelopathic effect of weeds. So just by having better biology in the soil, you're going to get less weed pressure. That makes so much more sense to me. And I love this kind of nerdy stuff. Makes so much sense to me why organic programs eventually you get less weed pressure. How about germination rates? And transplant survival. Best thing, pennies on the dollars. Do root dips with transplanting. Um, Bacteria produce all major plant hormones. I found this amazing when I came into the field. Like I said, I used to say soil was dirt, and then I found out that all the bacteria and the ones in quantum growth actually produce all the major plant hormones. Why is that? It made no sense to me. Not only that, but when under attack or when starving for something, plants will harvest microbes and farm them basically. Why is that? Somebody explained it to me. So I saw somebody at a talk. They had an acorn, and they said to a pathogen, they look at this acorn as a food source. They eat that acorn and then they have to go and find another acorn. To a beneficial, they see that acorn as an oak tree that's going to grow and feed them through their exudates for 100 years. So the plants produce hormones to get that acorn to germinate quicker because it's to its benefit. And that's what they do, and how we can exploit microbes to to our benefit to get better germination rate. Hydroseeders love us. Also, as just a byproduct of their respiration, beneficial microbes produce water. So with better root growth and more water, you get much better drought tolerant plants, trees by using beneficial microbes in your soil. Coming soon, disease and pest control. So this is exciting. We've known for years anecdotally what quantum and microbes can do for as natural fungicides. Quantum does not yet have an EPA number, so we can't sell it as that. So I'm going to talk about general what biologicals do. And if you read between the lines here, some of these biologicals are in quantum growth, like bacillus strains have been known, one mechanism where biologicals help fight disease is bacteria produce compounds that target pathogens. Remember, penicillin came from a fungus. Most of our antibiotics came from natural sources and microbes. So the bacillus strains actually produce antibiotics and antifungals. Um, and when under attack, these plants, trees, turf will bring in microbes. And it's important to make a diverse set of strains. Just a numbers game. More beneficial bacteria in the soil, there's no room to growth for pathogens. Complete competitors cannot coexist. So the more beneficials you have, the less that you have pathogens. So this is a study that they're using to get their EPA label. This was Xanthomonas. This is showing the reduction in Xanthomonas. These are all the harshest chemicals. And quantum growth here produced as performed statistically as well as any chemicals as far as suppressing Xanthomonas on tomatoes. The only thing that beat it was a combination of several of these chemicals. So it does work. And a really cool thing, if you haven't read about it, I'm going quick here because I'm almost out of time, is the trophobiosis theory that says a pest starves on a healthy plant. Pathogens are decomposers, pathogenic and pest insects. They break down, they're the first breaker downers, if that's a word, of decaying materials. Then the microbes take over. When we grow with synthetic fertilizers and push with nitrogen hormones, a growing plant looks like it's decaying because it can't make more complex sugars and starch. When you grow organically, whether you're a farmer or landscaper, these you get better root structure, more access to nutrients. You make higher amino acids and more complex sugars and starches. Insects can't digest those. Organic growers get very little pest insects. I had a farmer doing a trial on potatoes for growth, which was phenomenal with quantum growth. He had a field treated, not treated. He got a massive Colorado beetle infection that year, only on the untreated plots. And he didn't add any insecticides on the other side, and the Colorado potato beetles wanted nothing to do with it. And that was, that just shows you right there that really works. Um, I'm going to end here. I'm going to end a little early, but I just want to talk about prebiotics. So we're a little snobbish. Everybody else calls these fertilizers and amendments. We call them prebiotics because what they really do is feed the microbes. So things like humates, seaweeds, fish, micronutrients, your irons, your borons, magnesium, calcium, molasses, etc. These are all prebiotics. These are all things to build healthy soil, and they feed the microbes. You don't need to buy these all individually like you used to have to. This is part of our programs. We use Neptune's Harvest Turf Formula, which has fish in it, or influence from organic approach. Eric and Josh are going to talk about that later. These give you all those healthy micros, all in one bottle. You know, your granular fertilizers are part of our program, whether your organic approach, Magero, we have several brands. They provide your NPKs, your macronutrients. They also provide carbon. Or the difference between organic and synthetics, our organics have high carbon and a very low salt index. You're not going to get desiccation of water from all the salts used in synthetics. Feed the soil. This is how our programs work, and the soil will feed the plants or the turf. Balanced chemistry and biology. Our programs combine those prebiotics that give you all the benefits with really good organic prebiotics, excuse me, and with our probiotics. And this is just a video. I'm going to show you how important this interaction is. If you look, this is a root, this is root here, and all these little dots are microbes. Watch these microbes come in and out. What is happening is these microbes are breaking down those nutrients like I showed you. They're cycling that nitrogen and solubilizing those phosphates, and they're coming to the root hairs, and they are bringing those nutrients. And in exchange, those 40% exudates with all the sugars are being fed to these microbes, and it's an amazing system. And pictures are worth 1,000 words. That's a root tip. You see all the microbial activity. And you see the microbes coming in here, even stimulating the meristem to grow. So that's how our programs work. When you put the prebiotics and the probiotics together, 1 plus 1 is not 2, it's 4. You get a synergistic effect. This is, I told you before, treating the Tampa Bay Bucks. They had a game coming up in a week. Their field looked like this. They added quantum growth. This is what it looked like. This is American Landscape. Steve Bousquet spoke here last year. This is his trial plot during the summer with our program here versus synthetic practice. This was during a major drought in the summer, and you actually see there was irrigation on this side. Look how his lawn, his synthetic lawns look versus ours, and this is what it looks like with our lawns versus his when he did root plugs. Golf courses again, 4 weeks after quantum growth. Lenny Marone. I don't know if you're on Lenny, but Lenny has done sports turfs in New York, all organic with our program. This is what his sports turfs look like. Lenny's actually been accused of using chemicals. His lawns look so good. And this is all backed by university trials. So